we climb because it's fun. And mainly it was fun. You know, that's all we ever did. And we were fairly anarchic and fairly irresponsible, and we didn't give a damn about anyone else or anything else, and we just wanted to climb the world, and it was fun. It was just brilliant fun. And every now and then it went wildly wrong, and then it wasn't. By the time I went to Peru, I was 25. Simon was 21. But we had done a lot of climbing in the Alps.
To climb mountains that have not been climbed before, or a new route of a mountain, is what my climbing life had been moving towards.
A friend of ours who'd done an amazing amount of climbing in South America had seen this face in the mid-70s. I think he said it would be a challenging day out.
It was the last big mountain face in this range of mountains that hadn't been climbed. There's a great unknown there. What's so compelling is stepping into that unknown. It was an isolated spot, and 2 days' walk from a road, and the mountains all around seemed very big compared to the mountains I'd seen in the Alps. We eventually reached a spot on the approach to Grande. You couldn't really take the donkeys any further than this point. I guess it'd be 4 or 5 miles from the bottom of the mountains.
We knew Grande was over the back, but we didn't see it. We'd met this lad called Richard Hawking in Lima. He'd been travelling on his own, and I think we said, well, why don't you just join us on our trip? I think he said that he didn't know anything about mountaineering.
I didn't really know what part of Peru I was in, or quite what I was letting myself in for.
We wanted Richard because when we were on the mountain, if he was at base camp, he could look after our kit.
I got to know Simon quite well. I don't know whether it was because of his personality or whether it was because he was more forgiving towards me, being a non-climber in that environment. But I found it very hard to get to know Joe.
I was much more ambitious about doing it than Simon was. Grande meant a lot. We knew a number of expeditions had failed on it. If no one had tried, it wouldn't be quite the same. It was the fact that people had tried and had failed. So we knew it was hard. And my feeling was, well, we'll just do it. We're better than them.
Since the 1970s, people have been trying to climb mountains in the greater ranges in what's called alpine style. And essentially, alpine style means you pack a rucksack full of all your clothing, your food and your climbing equipment, and you start off from a base camp and you try and climb the mountain you're going to climb in a single push. You don't fix a line of ropes up it beforehand. You don't have a set of camps that you stock and come up and back down from. That's the purest style, and that's the style that Joe and I had climbed Sula Grande.
It's a very committing way of climbing because you have no line of retreat. If something goes wrong, it can be very, very serious. There's no rescue, there's no helicopter rescue, and there's no other people. There's no margin for error. If you get badly hurt, you'll probably die. I hadn't seen it from this angle, and it looked steep. I sort of thought, Christ, it's big. It looks harder than I thought, than I expected. But I was excited. Start doing it. It's brilliant. This is what we live for. I love the actual movement of climbing. So when you're climbing well, it just feels brilliant. It's like a combination between ballet and gymnastics. It's that mixture of power and grace.
For me, mountains are the most beautiful places in the world. When I go into these places, I feel an amazing sense of space, an amazing sense of freedom when I get away from all of the clutter that we have in our world.
I think we surprised ourselves at the speed. We got up the ice field, it's about 1,000 foot, and got up to a point where the ice is running through rock bands and you've got vertical cascades. We started intricately climbing through these. The fact that you are tied to your partner means that you put an immense amount of trust in someone else's skill and ability. But at some point, you might be thinking, for God's sake, Simon, don't fall here. For God's sake, don't fall here. The rope can be something that, rather than save your life, you kill you. If your mate falls off and all his gear rips out, you're dead. You're going to go with him. If you're going to do that sort of climbing, at some point you're going to have to rely wholly on your partner. I think we were very pleased at the end of that first day. We had done a lot of climbing, good climbing, and we were very confident at that point that we should make it. At altitude, you dehydrate enormously. You have to drink a lot of fluid, 4 or 5 litres a day. And the only way you can get it is by melting snow.
Everything's so time-consuming. To make a single brew at that altitude takes a very long time. You're perhaps looking at an hour just to make a couple of cups. For that reason, we perhaps didn't brew up as much as we should have done. But we didn't have an awful lot of spare gas with us either. There's not a lot of risk in our lives normally now. And to put an element of risk back into it takes us out of the humdrum. In that sense, it makes you feel more alive.
I've never been that high before, and it's very, very strenuous to climb ice like that. Not only is it technically difficult and unstable and frightening, but your heart is going like nosebleeds because of the altitude. Now got very cold indeed, and we were up 20,500 feet. It was windy and it started snowing, and it meant that the whole face was pouring with powder snow avalanches.
Snow would actually stick on the outside of your clothing. It would then freeze on top of you, like you're wearing a suit of armour.
The last section on the face was a few hundred feet of the most nightmarish climbing. Completely unstable powder snow. No anchors at any point.
It was physically very, very tiring. Full body climbing, really.
It took us the best part of 5 or 6 hours to climb 200 feet.
Carried on way after it had got dark.
I was getting extremely cold because I was just sitting still while Simon was trying to climb.
You know, I was getting near hypothermic. And you just knew that if you just carried on, regardless, it was going to go tits up. So we dug a snow cave. In the morning, in good weather, we actually saw what we'd been trying to climb. It was this Andean nightmare of flutings of the finest powder gorged out by snow falling down, meringues and mushrooms and cornices all over the place. We'd heard about these strange powder snow conditions you get in the Andes, and we'd never seen them before. I don't know the physics that it explains why powder snow can stay on such steep slopes. In the Alps, it would just slide off if the slope was above 40 degrees. It is some of the most precarious unnerving and dangerous climbing I've ever done. We were actually scared that we would get to an impasse where we couldn't climb any further up, because we knew we wouldn't be able to get back down what we'd already climbed. We were climbing ourselves into a trap. And not only that, we could see this 4,500 foot drop that was waiting for us. And so it was a great relief that by 2 o'clock in the afternoon we got onto the North Ridge and off the west face. And we vowed that we didn't want to go near Andean flutings again.
We were pretty tired, really, by the time we got up onto the ridge.
I was knackered. And I remember thinking, oh, sod the summit, we've done the face, and I think I can't really be bothered to go all the way up there. And then we thought, well, hang on, no, you know, we have come all this way, we might as well stand on the top.
Hey. All the way down, isn't it?
I don't particularly like summits because 80% of accidents happen on descent.
We decided before we even climbed the face that we were going to come down the north ridge of the mountain, down to a col between the mountain Grande and another mountain called Urapaha, and then we'd be able to abseil down a smaller section of the face.
Already the clouds are coming in from the east, big clouds.
We expected this ridge to be quite straightforward, quite easy way to descend. We were hoping, you know, we'd be able to sort of walk, and it turned out to be very difficult.
It was horrendous. Vertical on the west side with the cornices overhanging the west side, and on the east side steep flutings running down 3,000 feet below us.
It was a shock, really, and it was quite dangerous, and it all got a bit, it seemed to have got a bit out of control, really, at that stage of things.
And within about half an hour to an hour of leaving the summit, we were lost. We were in a whiteout. We couldn't see anything.
Then we got a little break in the cloud, and I saw the ridge, so I started climbing back up to it. I didn't know because of the side of the ridge I was on, but it was actually an enormous cornice, an overhang of snow and ice, and I was walking up over the top of it. was left hanging, looking down, as all this snow and ice then fell away from me down the west side of Grande. You know, I got back up on the ridge and I shouted down to Joe that I'd found the ridge, you know, like, I said, "Oh, I found the ridge, Joe."
We'd hoped to have got down that day, but by the time it got dark, we were still very high, still at 20,000 feet. And that night, as we made a brew, the gas ran out.
It was pretty obvious the following morning that we'd descended the worst part of the ridge, and I was pretty confident that we'd get back down to the base camp that day. I thought at that stage it was pretty much in the bag, I suppose, the whole climb.
I was ahead of Simon, and suddenly there was this vertical wall bisecting the ridge. I had to sort of get down on my hands and knees, hammer both my axes into the ice at the top, and then lower myself off the ice cliff. When you hammer the axe in, you listen to the sound it makes, and you look at it. I was hanging by both axes. I think I took the hammer out, and what I wanted to do is now place it in the vertical wall, and I swung, and the pick went in, and it just made a strange sound. I thought, well, I'll take it out, make a good placement, because I just wanted to put bomber dead solid axe placements in all the way down. And I was about to swing at the ice again. Came flooding down my thigh, and my knee was very, very, very painful. The impact drove my lower leg straight through my knee joint. As the bone went into my femur, it split the tibial plateau straight off and carried on up.